All right, welcome in. It's Detroit Sports Talk here on the fifth chapter. I'm Dennis Fithian, joined by Brian Jelinek. We're going to get into all of the things that we always do. Here's so much going on in the world of sports. We'll start the show with sending out some real positive thoughts to our community right here in our backyard, Oxford, Michigan, and the terrible tragedy that happened there today. Our thoughts are with you, and it's the terrible tragedy here today. All right, let's get into it as we turn that page. Jelinek, it's good to see you. It is Detroit Sports Talk on the fifth chapter, and we are always presented by CashToBitcoin.com. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. It's been an excellent weekend up until kind of this afternoon, but free agency with the Tigers has been great. Cashed in with Michigan, so I'm happy about that. Yeah, man. It was an all-around good weekend for Brian in the Jelinek household in the studios watching sports. It was kind of a picture-perfect weekend if you really think about it.
Well, I'll give you the credit now, and I'll give you the credit coming up in the second chapter.
Oh, yeah.
You were adamant that not only was Michigan going to take those 8 points and be able to cover the spread against Ohio State, you liked the Michigan Wolverines outright. So,
oh yeah,
that was a great pick by you.
Yeah, I felt pretty confident about that one.
You did.
Yeah,
I mean, you said it. You called your shot. I was hoping you were right. I wasn't quite ready. I was not ready at all to go there, but you did, and great job.
Yeah, we'll talk about it more in the second chapter. But out of my friend group is mostly Michigan fans. A lot of kids from high school into Michigan, all that, and watching the game with all Michigan fans, I was the only one saying. We'll really get into it because I don't want to give it away, but I was the only one saying that Michigan was going to win, so I'm very happy about that one.
Yeah, our books and our chapters, we will have Michigan in Chapter 2. We'll also get into some Lions in Chapter 4. We take a look at that book and we talk about it, and that's brought to you by our title sponsor, and that is CashToBitcoin.com. Hey, you've thought a lot about it, like me, and now's the time to get involved in cryptocurrency. Now I'm here to tell you how to do it. And it's CashToBitcoin.com. That's cash, the number 2, Bitcoin.com. I was listening to the Red Wing game a month or so ago, and Red Wings had a hat trick. I'm listening to their spot, and it was CashToBitcoin.com. I was excited, just like I am about the HEISMAN plan. And CashToBitcoin.com is one of the fastest and largest growing crypto ATMs in Michigan. They have hundreds of locations in Michigan and beyond. CashToBitcoin.com's ATMs and terminals offer safe and secure transactions. So get it going, step it up, check it out while we're still here in 2021 as we're getting ready to turn the page and get to the final calendar a month of 2021 in December. Now's the time, folks. Remember, use it, CashToBitcoin.com. Yeah, it's amazing. Here we are on the final day of November.
Oh, God, it's wild. I can't believe December starts tomorrow. It's bizarre, but I think with that, I think we should really get into talking about Tiger baseball in Chapter 1. What do you think, Fifth?
I think it's a good place to lead off because it was big news today. I didn't catch it like as it was happening. I got the notification into my phone and I looked and I kind of wanted to look away, and then I looked back just to double check it. That didn't say Correa. It didn't. It said Javi Baez for 6 years and $140 million. Now, we all know that wasn't our first choice. I don't even know if it was the second or third or maybe even fourth choice. But now that you've had a little bit of time to digest it, you're shaking your head a little bit here, Jelinek. How do you feel about Javi Baez playing shortstop for the Tigers?
It's honestly kind of derailed my day. I was thinking about it all during work today. It was just bizarre. And I can't stand it. I mean, first of all, Javier Baez, God forbid you're watching the show, which I hope you are, but this is not about you. People are not being upset with you. It's on Chris Ilitch. So it's on Chris Ilitch. It's on Al Avila. We like you. I think you're a phenomenal player in your own regard, but you're not what I'm looking for at all. You strike out a ton. You're a phenomenal shortstop. I get that, really good fielder, but you make contact with the ball like 60% of the time. If that, it's not good. Like just making contact, not necessarily getting hit, just making contact with the ball. I don't like that. I don't like how much he strikes out. He strikes out a huge clip. He's a below average hitter. He'll give you the power and he'll give you some fireworks, but that's really all you can say about Javier Baez. I just don't think he is worth $24 million a year. And I'm really bummed, Fifth. That's just the best way to put it. I really wanted Carlos Correa, and I just think it's a cop-out on the Illich's part. And I think it's cheap on their part to sign Javier Baez and not go after a big time name like Carlos Correa.
Yeah, the thing is, we don't know what Correa is ultimately going to sign for and where he's going to go. And I know there was a lot of people that were claiming that they had some sources on the Tigers that said that the Tigers wouldn't go over 300 million, or that the Tigers then were ready to go to 300 million, but that Correa didn't want to come here. And you remember I was talking about Simeon getting him, and he went for what 7 and 140, or I'm sorry, 175. I got the numbers down here.
And he's 31.
And that's a little bit more money, 7 and 175 compared to 6 and 140. The thing is here, there's never been a time in baseball history where you had free agency and shortstop like the one we had going into this year. It's such a premium position when you look across Major League Baseball, and then this year with Seager, with Correa right up there at the top, and then it goes down. Simeon, Story was still out there. And then BAEZ, man, there were 5 of them. And the Tigers, I mean, you can make a case that they got the 5th one there. So I don't know. To me, it's not the home run in Correa.
No, it's not.
Can I make a case it's a double? Like if it wasn't the year of the shortstop, or there was no Correa, and there was no Sager there to possibly go after, you can say, hey, this is pretty good. But they are all there. I mean, that's the fact of the matter is they were all sitting out there. So I know there's hope for Tiger fans, like, oh, so we saved 150 million, so now they're going to go out and spread that money and throw it at some other bats and arms and things. And all right, well, I'm ready to see that. Now, you always wait to see what the end result is here before they come out. And if it was Mike Ilitch, he might sit around and see what everybody's saying, and he might go with the Rangers plan. He would be like, hey, you know what? We're going to send BAEZ
$500 million.
We're going to send BAEZ to second base, and we're going to sign Carlos Correa for $350 million. Everybody would be like, "Oh my God, it's the greatest thing ever!" So we do have to wait and see what they do with that money. But if this is it, I don't think they're going to be doing much. They might find a defensive center fielder. Like, they don't feel good about Riley Green right off the bat coming up next year. Remember the collective bargaining agreement? They're probably going to not start the baseball season on time, which is going to get us all ticked off anyways. But part of that, they want to do away with the rookie deals where, teams have had to put some of the players like Green and Torkelson on ice for the first month or so of the season and then bring them up, to start their clocks and everything. Apparently they're going to cut that. So that would be one good thing if they do get it going. And if they do come to terms there, we could see Green and Torkelson up right off the bat. But I don't think they're going to be doing much else. But we'll see if what the completed product is and what the actual team looks like. But today, when you're expecting a home run at the very top, and you end up getting like your second, third, fourth, maybe 5th choice here, it might end up turning out. But don't expect cartwheels here from Tigers fans today.
No, I don't think anybody's cartwheeling. I don't think everybody's been saying like, wow, oh my God, Javier BAEZ is on our team, we're set now. That's absolutely not the case. And I think with that, they're not going to, but I think they have to do something else and sign somebody else. I just really think at the end of the day, this is a cop-out on Chris Ilitch's part. I mean, the Tigers' payroll going into the year was $79 million, going into 2021, excuse me. If you add on Javier BAEZ, that puts us right above 100, add on I'm already forgetting his name. The dude from Boston who we just signed for 17 large. What's his name? Erod. Thank you. Eduardo Rodriguez. We're looking at what? Maybe $115 million payroll. It's absurd. That's not even the league average for payroll is $130 million last year. For the postseason average is $160 million. The Tigers have all the money in the world to be able to spend on Carlos Correa and bring in that money. I mean, they just signed a new $50 million a year deal with Bally Sports. It's absurd. They have the money. I just think that Ilitch does not want to commit to somebody for 10 years. And I just think that's absolutely ridiculous. Javier BAEZ is by no means what Carlos Correa is. He strikes out way more, lower on base percentage, lower WAR, all that. I just don't like the signing for what the Tigers are trying to do right now.
Yeah, it was a limited sample size. I think less than 40 plate appearances. But if it ends up playing out like just the numbers when he went to Comerica, I mean, he's got a OPS above 1 and 382 batting average, but it's only 40 games. I mean, that's the thing. And, the one thing we've seen right-handed hitters where they've struggled, like Nick Castellanos. I don't know about struggled, but they don't get as much power. So you look at some of those power numbers, they might not be as good. It depends where he drives the ball. If he heads up hitting it more, down the line, he's all right. But if he's using left center, if he's using straightaway center, as Castellanos does, that's going to affect, I would expect more like 25 home runs, not above 30, like some of his numbers over the last 3 years when they were full complete seasons for him. But yeah, I mean, it's I think it's a double, but we're expecting a home run. And when you're expecting a home run and it's not your first or second or third or fourth or fifth choice, but it's fifth choice, fourth or fifth choice. I mean, that's where, you get, and you're like, okay.
Well, on top of that, too, with Corey Seager's ridiculous contract of $325 million, the price tag for Correa is only going to go up as well. I mean, I understand that Corey Seager is younger and all that, maybe probably a better player, but look at the Rangers. They've spent damn near $500 million in payroll, and it's just ridiculous. Like, they're doing what they need to do right now, and I just don't think the Tigers, while they're being aggressive, they're not being nearly aggressive enough to say that, look, we made a big step last year, and we want to contend for at least a playoff spot this year. I don't think it's enough, personally. I really don't. I think it's a really soft move by the Tigers front office and ownership, excuse me.
Let's get to some of the feedback here when it comes down to Javi Baez. There's Beth, too many strikeouts for me. So hopefully we can get the change of scenery. It'll help him. However, it was too much for Correa. Like $300 million definitely would not have done that deal.
I just don't buy that, Dennis. I really don't. With the way the league's going, I mean, Max Scherzer for the next 3 years is making $120 million, and he's 37 years old. That's a ton of money. I have zero problem committing $30 million a year for Correa. And God knows, I doubt he'll be here for the full 10-year stint. Let's say he did sign here. Regardless, $30 million for a premium shortstop, I think at this point in the league and just in baseball is a steal. I really do.
Yeah, I don't think it's a steal. I think that when you have to address your needs and you go to free agency, you do have to pay through the teeth and go out there, especially for the premium guys. I mean, that's the way it goes. I mean, you try to nickel and dime it or, paste it together, and what it looks like they're doing here. They didn't want to go after the big fish. This is more like, let's just try to slide in there and go third or fourth best. And, that's going to leave – you know what? And you should have a bad taste in your mouth, and until he goes out there and proves it, and you can see that here, 3 months into the season, and you can take a look at it and say, you know what? Hey, the Tigers got a deal here, man. They really went after, identified this guy, and man, great job by them. But it doesn't look like that here today. And you know what? Maybe 6 months from now, we will be sitting back and saying, hey, you know what? Maybe Al Avila and company. But I don't know how many times we said, hey, maybe Al Avila and company really have this great mastermind plan. Not many times.
I just think for an ownership group and a general manager for the past 3 or 4 years, the Tigers being so bad, just saying, we're going to get there. We're going to get over the hump. We're rebuilding. We're going to be aggressive. We're going to sign players. And this is what happens. I mean, Eduardo Rodriguez, phenomenal signing. I don't think anybody hates that sign. It's great. But then to slap us in the face with Javier Baez when Carlos Correa, probably one of the best players in free agency, period, not just that the shortstop position is available, and you don't even make an offer? Like, it's ridiculous. I hate that.
What percentage would you guys give the Tigers of winning the AL Central? Well, remember, this is a feedback for those listening on the podcast from David. If you had to put the number, the win total right now, I would put it close to 500, maybe, a game above 500, maybe two above
That's
500.
not enough.
We don't know. That's not going to be enough for the Central, not with the White Sox there. But, with Cleveland clearly rebuilding, Minnesota was the heavy favorite last year, and they, fell on their face. So they're a wild card in there. I mean, the Tigers, I think an optimistic view would say that, they're going to be above 500 and they can compete in the Central. But, second place is somewhere that they'll be looking at. But
they're competing for the wild card game. That's what they're going for this year. I think that's the ceiling. And I'm totally fine with that. I think you're totally fine with saying that, too. It's just I just don't think this free agency signing was enough to get over that ceiling.
Yeah, the look at if he comes in, he's when you strike out a lot, you got to hit a lot of home runs. I mean, and he has. I mean, if he goes over there and hits 35 home runs, and he's whiffing at a 30% rate, you don't like all the strikeouts. You'd like a better on base percent. I mean, like you get into stat nerds and they don't like his on base percentage, they don't like his strikeouts, but they like his power. I mean, he's more like a a pseudo DH out there, but he's
Yeah.
really good defender. That part
Phenomenal.
is good. He's a magician
Yeah.
at shortstop. So from that standpoint, look at it's not like they went out there and are rolling back Jose Iglesias here. So he should be better than that. But it just comes back to it again. This was a year, and not only the Tigers have been down and sat since 2015. I mean, they've been rebuilding since 2016. I mean, that's a long time. So we've been waiting. Hey, when they're ready, they're going to spend. And then the position of need, there's a guy there that used to play with the manager and everything. It's the perfect fit.
It fit perfectly.
And the other part about that is Mike Ilitch would have landed him. Mike Ilitch would have gone out and delivered Carlos Correa. If it would have taken $350 million, he would have gotten Carlos Correa. And I think Chris is, he's a little antsy about $350 million. I'm not doing $350 million. So we'll see. Maybe in 6 months, people will be saying, hey, you know what, Chris Ilitch, that was very prudent signing. But, we're going to have to wait and see on that.
The way to look at it, too, is that Javier BAEZ is going to be making, what, $23 million a year? You add on $7 more million to 30. I mean, it's not that much money in the terms of baseball. It's not. And I think people to say, like, we don't want another Miggy, stuff like that. You got to remember, Carlos Correa is 27 years old. We signed Miggy to extensions in his 30s. Like, it's totally different.
Well, Correa's going to probably get $35 million a year. I mean, right. So that's, what are we talking about? $8 million more than, what BAEZ is getting per year. And you're going to have to pay Correa up until 37 years old, where, BAEZ, you're going to 34. You can make it look like, hey, this is a pretty good savings. The one thing about Correa, because he's looking for a 10-year deal, when you have to pay that 10 years, going in that those last couple of years are going to be gamey. It's going to be like Miguel Cabrera. It's going to be like Victor Martinez. It happens now.
Yeah.
Or it is going to happen. We more than not, it happens. There's some guys where you're like, somehow they, keep it going, like Big Papi or Scherzer and those guys. I mean, those guys are nuts, but those guys are not the norm. It's normally like Victor Martinez and company.
Yeah, I feel you can work around that. Just I would front load the contract or something like that, so he's not getting paid $30 million a year in his 35, 36, 37 age seasons. I think that's what I would do. But overall, I just think this is a really soft move on the Tigers' part. And Chris Ilitch, I'm sorry, like nobody's happy about it. I can't find one person who's just stoked about Javier BAEZ being here. I think it's a soft move on your part.
Yeah, and I think it's okay, and we have to see what else is going on. If this is it, and they come in, and it's a 500 team, it is going to be a little bit underwhelming when you're expecting a superstar and you get maybe a star. I mean, there it is. Like, that's it.
It really bothered me all day at work. I was constantly thinking about it. It sucked. It derailed my day.
Beth says, you're right, Brian. It's not.
Yeah.
I think the Tigers didn't want a 10-year contract, especially after Mickey. We aren't there yet to be really good.
I think we're a lot closer than people think. And I think if you bring in a Carlos Correa and another $10 million, $15 million a year player in the field somewhere, I think you can easily get there. I'm not saying that when you sign Carlos Correa this year, we're going to be contending for the AL Central, contending for a playoff spot, and contending for the World Series. I'm not saying that. I just think Correa is a massive stepping stone, because you got to remember, to play baseball in Detroit, it's not a top-tier market team. People aren't going to be like, wow, I want to come play for the Tigers. You see Carlos Correa, you see Eduardo Rodriguez, you see the young kids coming up in Green and Torque. You're like, wow, I would want to play there. With Javier BAEZ, and we didn't even talk about his massive personality, you may be like, I don't really want to play in Detroit for Javier BAEZ, or just they're not ready yet. Like, I just think it's a really stupid move.
Are you sure? All right. Let's you ready to turn the page?
Yeah, I think that's going to take us into some Michigan football. And Dennis, while we were talking about the Tigers, really quickly, the new CFP rankings came out, and it is Georgia, Michigan, Alabama, Cincinnati, and then Oklahoma State's 5, and Notre Dame without a head coach is number 6. So, yeah, Michigan just rolled Ohio State this weekend, and thankfully I was the only person on the show who said that was going to happen. And I wouldn't want to play Michigan right now if I was Alabama, if I was Georgia or Cincinnati. I would not want to play Michigan just for the fact that they're peaking at the right time. Their offense and defensive lines just bullied Ohio State in every capacity. Hassan Haskins rushed for 4 touchdowns. Cade McNamara, five touchdowns. Cade McNamara is throwing the ball well. You do not want to play this really good Michigan football team right now because they're peaking.
Yeah, well, it was an incredible weekend in Ann Arbor, and it ended up, Thanksgiving weekend, which starts on, of course, Thursday, and takes you to Sunday. There's always so many different games and sports and everything's going on, but Michigan won the weekend out of it, all of that by being able to take down Ohio State. The way that they played, what was at stake, and that the snow was coming down, that across the country and everything else, all of it played into it. It was a spectacular win for Michigan. It's amazing what one little, measly win, what it could do for you and how it feels like it, could completely turn the fortunes of what's going on with your football program. And that's what happened on Saturday here. But definitely a weight has been lifted. And now the sky is opened up and, you're talking about the college football playoffs and there might be people like, hey, slow down. Well, Michigan's a double-digit favorite against Iowa. They're supposed to win this weekend. They're supposed to go to the college football playoff. And yeah, I mean, the thing about this weekend is if they can beat Iowa, they should beat the Hawkeyes to win their first Big Ten championship since 2004. That just validates, the Ohio State game even more and how they played. If they can go out there and get a championship after all that and then get into the college football playoff. And you're right, listening to all those teams that you laid out there, the scenario, Georgia could lose to Alabama and then maybe Michigan, if Michigan would have to play Georgia the first round.
It's not the same Alabama team either. Sorry to interrupt you. Just they look vulnerable right now. It's not a typical Nick Saban Bama team. And I really do think that Georgia has a tendency to shoot themselves in the foot, especially when they play Alabama. Cincinnati's a group of 5 team, and I understand they beat Notre Dame in the year, but overall, if you're looking at these 4 teams in the playoff right this second, and if you want to throw in Notre Dame and Oklahoma State too at 5 and 6, Michigan is, as of right this second, at 7:22 on Tuesday evening, Michigan's the best football team in those 6 teams.
Yeah, I don't agree with that, but I think that that's fine. I mean, that's what it's all about. If we're all going to just sit here and agree with you, that's not going to. It's like it's being called "Let's agree with the Jelinek show." I think as we sit here right now and look at Michigan's path to the championship game, the Iowa Hawkeyes and the Cincinnati Bearcats. I mean, like they could beat Iowa, they could beat Cincinnati. I mean, it's not like you're looking at Cincinnati and saying, "Oh my God, they have no chance." Now maybe they'll lose against Iowa, and then we'll be sitting over here talking about, "Oh, what a golden opportunity," and that's what we will be talking about. But it's not like you're sitting there where some other years it's the college football playoff and you're playing Alabama and you're like, "There's no way that you're going to be able to compete with Alabama." They're going to beat you by 20. You're going to beat. Now, I think that, Georgia would be very tough. Georgia's got the best defense in the country, and their offense looks pretty good too. That's very difficult. So if Georgia gets beat by Alabama, then it's going to look like a tall task in the college football playoff. I'm ready to take that right now, though. That means I'd get a win, this Saturday. But, if you're sitting here, I think Georgia's going to beat Alabama. I think Michigan's going to beat Iowa, and I think Cincy's going to win. And I think that college football playoff committee shouldn't keep Alabama in there with 2 losses. Not. And I don't think they should, they could do anything they want. And remember, they mostly want the best ratings. And, Michigan, Notre Dame.
Check.
Well, right. And even, would you rather have Georgia, Notre Dame, or Georgia, Oklahoma State? Which one's going to be more attractive there? Or a Georgia, Alabama rematch? What if the game's really close? If it's a great game, maybe they will say Alabama would drop to 4 and they would have a rematch. I could see that happening. If it was a great game, you say, man, let's run that one back. I want to see that one again. I think that's a possibility. But if it comes down where Georgia kicks Alabama in the teeth and they can't sit over there and they're going to have to pick either Oklahoma State or Notre Dame, I think that they would rather pick Notre Dame to play Georgia.
Yeah, from a rating standpoint, absolutely. I think they want Notre Dame to get in without a doubt because Alabama, Michigan, Notre Dame, they're going to have some of the biggest fan bases in the country, and the ratings are going to be astronomical. But at the end of the day, who's Notre Dame beaten? In all honesty, who have they really played, and who have they beaten? If I was the college football committee, I'm looking at if Georgia beats Alabama, it's Georgia, Michigan, Cincinnati, and then Oklahoma State without a doubt. I mean, the Big 12 has a tendency to just get railed in the college football playoffs. So does Notre Dame, for that matter. But at the end of the day, I think those are the 4 best teams in the country right now, and I still have a tough time putting Cincinnati in there as a Group of 5 team. But I just think as of right now, the committee has to be stoked just for the fact that Alabama, Michigan, and Notre Dame's just knocking on the door from a rating standpoint. Absolutely.
Yeah. Committee can pick whoever they want. It's not like Oklahoma State's really got anybody to go ahead. And, Notre Dame's best thing that they have is, their one loss is against Cincinnati.
Yeah.
I mean, Cincinnati's beat everybody, and they beat Notre Dame. They got the best win in there. So they should be a lock. I know some people disagree with that, but I think Cincinnati should be a lock. And so then it comes down to will they pick Notre Dame or will they pick Oklahoma State? I think they would pick Notre Dame. I think they would. I think they would love to have a Michigan Notre Dame first round. I mean, like the natural enemies that have punted the series for 15 years suddenly, land without a head coach and Brian Kelly, who voted for LSU. I would like that for Brian Kelly too. He parachutes and leaves.
That'd be
for
awesome.
The hundreds of millions of dollars to go to Baton Rouge, but then his team gets in there. Of course, I hope they don't win, but just for that part, like that's what you're coaching for, is to get in there, and so all of that. That's all, Rich. We'll see how that ends up playing out. Here's the one thing about the college football playoff: we're over here talking about things that are already like, oh yeah, this is going to happen, and there's going to be an upset or two. That's likely going to happen on Saturday, which throws the whole thing up in the air. So that's why, talking about it, like a month ago with so many games to be played, if we would have started talking about Michigan, well, what if Michigan beats Ohio State? People are laughing. Not you. Maybe not you.
No, I'm with you. 2 weeks ago, I would have thought the same thing, because 2 weeks ago we were watching C.J. Straub throw for 4 million yards a game and hit every NFL caliber wide receiver and their unreal tight end every single time. I mean, Ohio State's a damn good football team at the end of the day. Just Michigan just bullied them in every facet on Saturday. It was awesome to watch.
How about let's go to Pete Finelli. You see him on the screen for the first time. He is our intern. He took over for Brian Jelinek in that role. He's out in Happy Valley. You look like you're back at school, Pete.
Back in State College. A couple more weeks, getting ready to stress out over finals and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you pause to think, what about us? What could have been? Like, Penn State was in a spot at one point when they were taking on Iowa, who Michigan's playing. I mean, that was a top 5 matchup, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was number 2 versus number 3, I think.
Top 3 matchup,
something like that. Yeah,
pretty good.
Yeah,
but your quarterback got hurt.
Right. Yeah, I definitely think about it like what could have been. Like you said, I mean, all of our losses have been absolutely winnable games. You take away a couple mistakes here and there, and Penn State's right in the running with everybody else, but they just haven't been able to, finish games and be consistent.
And we do blame you just a little bit for not going to that Illinois game. It was cold. You didn't have anybody else to go with, and you ended up losing to 9 overtimes. So you have to wear that one.
Yeah, all right, that's fine.
Pete, what did you think about the Michigan-Ohio State game? Did you watch it?
I did not watch the Michigan-Ohio State game. I wanted to, but I was actually driving back up here that day. So
fair enough. Well,
but I looked at all the numbers, all the highlights, and all that.
You guys want to hear an interesting stat that I heard today? Since the Big Ten went to an East and West division, the West has never won a Big Ten championship.
Yeah, because they suck.
They do. They really do suck at the end of the day. And we all thought that Wisconsin was going to be better. I guess Iowa just fooled all of us, really. I mean, Iowa's not that good. No. So it is bizarre at the end of the day. But damn, the Big Ten East, especially with Michigan State coming up, and I'm sure James Franklin will figure something back out at State College, but we'll see. Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State. The Big Ten East is probably one of the best divisions of college football, if you really think about it.
Yeah.
Look at Spartan Chris. Go Hawkeyes. Or Hawkeye Chris.
What, the Hawkeyes, the Wolverines are going to be favored by what, like at least 10 points, right?
It's 10.5 right now.
10.5, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Iowa was good in the beginning of the year, and then they kind of did what Penn State did. They just flopped. They were nowhere near what they were.
Super Rosidi saying that he had Michigan and Michigan State.
Super Rosidi also shouting my name out in the comments, trying to get our attention to read the comments. We can see them. We're just
choosing not to read them.
Yeah, we just don't. At
least I am.
We're just talking. We're doing our thing. We get to the comments, usually at the end of a chapter.
Here's a comment that I'm going to talk about. This is Beth chiming in from Facebook.
Sorry.
And she's just saying, I think Michigan has a good chance to win it all. And Beth, I'm on that train with you. I really think that as of right now, I said it a second ago, they're the best team in the country currently. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I mean, Aiden Hutchinson had 3 sacks and 15 quarterback pressures. The D-line dominated Ohio State's D-line. If you flip it to the other side of the football, they're running the ball damn near the way Georgia does or vintage Wisconsin. Their offensive line is killer. Cade McNamara is throwing the ball better. It's an all-around really good Michigan football team right now. It's impressive. That was an impressive win on Saturday.
I don't think you can put them over Georgia, but they're up there.
Yeah, nobody's saying that they're better than Georgia except you, but that's okay. Even if they go out there and you don't have to say everything that everybody agrees with. There you go. There it is again. Jelinek with an opinion. Michigan's better than everybody else.
He was I'm not gonna the Ohio State game, so you never.
He was. He's got that going.
Say that louder.
He does have that
going. That's all right.
David is not drinking. David is not drinking the Harbaugh Kool-Aid after one win. He needs to see him beat OSU on a regular basis. Still a lot of work to be done. Well, I get that point. Coming up one time and winning a game, it doesn't mean Michigan's some elite program, dominant. They're back. Let's go. But being able to break through and get that monkey off your back, if they were a team that had dropped a couple other, they had lost to Penn State, we were sitting here and they didn't have a chance in the college football playoff and they beat Ohio State, then you'd say, hey, it was a good win and it was nice to get that monkey off their back, but they still have other things to play for here, David. I'm not, before you start thinking about next year down at Columbus, let's see if Michigan can win a Big Ten championship. Let's see if they can get to the college football playoff. And like we've been discussing here, it's not one of those years where you're looking at the college football playoff and saying, oh my God, they're going to get killed when they go there. They get a chance to make it to the championship game, a realistic chance to get there. So, you're not drinking any Harbaugh Kool-Aid. You might want to, pull that drink and put it in front of you because over, this Saturday, if they get into the CFP, they got a legitimate chance against Cincinnati. Maybe they'll lose against Cincinnati, but they got a chance to go to the championship game. You know what? If they get to the championship game, then that's a hell of an accomplishment. But you always want more. You always want more. It doesn't matter what kind of sports fan you are. I mean, the Tigers made it to the World Series in 06 and 12, 13. Those were spectacular seasons, going all the World Series and the playoff games. I loved it all, but they missed it by that much. You wanted more. Notre Dame's been to the the college football playoff. They want more. You want more until you ultimately can get it all.
Oh, I get that aspect of it, but at the same time, can't you treat the college football playoff the same way you treat the Final Four? Damn, we're good enough to get to the Final Four in hoops. I think it's the same way for college football. I mean, obviously you want to win the championship, but to get in there in the last week of the season and say wow, we were one of the 4 best teams in the country, I think that's automatically a win, regardless if you're Michigan, Alabama, Georgia, or Cincinnati.
Well, maybe not for Alabama.
No, that's the norm for Alabama.
For Michigan, absolutely, especially considering how poor last year went. All of a sudden, you turn it around and you're ranked number 2 in the nation.
Well, Pete, how old were you in 2004?
3.
That's the last time Michigan won the Big Ten. I mean, so it's been a long time.
That was when the conference only had 10 teams. And they didn't actually have a championship either. So that's bizarre.
They've never been to Indy. I remember game day. It's already been a few years where they were holding out the picture of Miley Cyrus, when she was Hannah Montana. She looked like she was about 6 years old, cute as a button sitting there. And they're like, this is the last time Michigan won the Big Ten. I was like, whoa, that's a long time ago. And we can hold up a picture of Pete, little toddler Pete, 3 years old. There's the last time. So, yeah, it's been a while. But, yeah, it's amazing what one win can do for you. There's Pete again. Had the interesting stat. What's that? Nobody on Michigan had more than 2 receptions. 9-player had receptions. That was big. I also thought that Ohio State had 0 tackles for loss against Michigan as well. Was a pretty big stat in that game. And that Michigan didn't punt in the second half. I also thought that was a pretty big stat.
Go ahead, Pete.
I was going to say, I think you got to give Hassan Haskins a ton of credit for what he's been able to do for the past few weeks. I mean, earlier in the season, the carries were split 3 ways between him, Corum, and Edwards, and then those 2 guys go down leading into the Penn State game, I think it was. And he's just absolutely taken over that backfield, and he has been dominant, especially against Ohio State, with his 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, when I was watching the game too, I was with some friends basement, drinking a couple of beers, hanging out, and Michigan scores that touchdown, their opening drive. And honestly, I know the game went to 10-7 for a minute, but as soon as they scored on that first drive, you're like, it's over. Michigan's got it. Michigan, I really honestly felt that. I very rarely felt that about football games in general. After Michigan scored, I'm like, they got it. It's in the bag. Go blue all day long. And it's really that simple. Even after McNamara's in-zone interception, just overall, Michigan was the better team.
And I'm going to say your 2 favorite words again. I'm going to say that you're right about what you said last week about it being at Michigan. And, they have not played Ohio State has not really played anybody on the road. And I totally think that was a huge factor to it all.
Yeah, they did come out right out of the gate. They got the touchdown on the first drive. They got a 3-and-out on the second drive. And then you're talking about that interception. But, when the game got to be an 8-point game in the second half, I was thinking Penn State was down 8 points and they were able to score and get a 2-point conversion. And Michigan State was down 16 points. They got 2 8-point conversions in back-to-back series. So there was a little bit of that. And if you know the history of this, this domination by Ohio State, it was just in 2017. Michigan was there at the half with a chance in the end zone. I mean, they played a hell of a first half. When Brady Hoke was the head coach, they had the lead down in Columbus. I mean, they've been in position. Not every game has been this complete trashing, the 62-point affair and all that. So it was great that they had a good start, and they had a 1-point lead at the half, but. It wasn't until they kept answering, the touchdowns that Ohio State had with, running the ball down their throat and then, coming up with some key passes that, you, from a Michigan standpoint, for me, at least watching this series, that I felt I felt pretty good in the fourth quarter. Like they just couldn't be stopped. You can see it. Just keep handing the ball off.
Yeah, that's all you need to do. You're at that point, you're like, I want Cade McNamara to throw the ball 15 times. Just keep running the damn ball. It's that simple. And to bring in the chat a little bit, Brian Chapman joining in saying Jim Harbaugh is the first Michigan coach to go consecutive seasons without losing to Ohio State since Lloyd Carr in '99 and 2000. I mean,
you being able to pull that pandemic season in there, talk about not winning it or whatever. You could do that.
It's been 700 days since they've lost to Ohio State. You can do that. I'll rip on Ohio State all I want.
Yeah, all those things work. And I know this, heading into the season, there was one, this is why and we'll do it all this offseason too, talk about the upcoming season and what about this game and this one's a trap one and everything else. I was pretty adamant that there was one game that Michigan couldn't lose this year or Jim Harbaugh was going to lose his job, and that was the Michigan State game. Mm-hmm. I thought there was no way, but then if somebody said, well, what if they win all the rest? Well, what are the chances of that happening? No, I didn't think there was any chance of that. I thought the biggest game on the schedule was against Michigan State, and here they obviously lost that one. But here they are sitting with a chance to win the Big Ten. That's crazy.
Yeah, I respect the hell out of Michigan now at this point in the season, and just the fact that if Mel Tucker didn't do what he did, going 10-2 this year, you give Jim Harbaugh the Big Ten Coach of the Year, and he's in consideration for Coach of the Year in all of college football, maybe besides the dude from Wake Forest. But it's truly incredible what Michigan did this year. They've gotten progressively better and better each week. Seriously, I mean, you can say what you want about the Michigan State game, but at the end of the day, Michigan is the better football team.
Well, at this point they are. And what about it? We'll get to Michigan State coming up in the 5th chapter. A lot of things to say about them. But let's turn the page because I want everybody to get a Heisman vote here. Are you ready to do that? As we get to chapter 3. the Heisman Trophy. You usually, people call it a popularity contest, or it goes to the quarterback on the best team, and you can definitely make a case for that. You can see it, but this year the possibility, if you're reading what college football writers are saying, they want the script absolutely flipped. They want all defensive players at the Downtown Athletic Club. But let's just say we all have, a blank slate here, and you had a vote. How would you rank? I mean, you can vote for 5 guys. You can vote for 3. How many ever you want. Let's go. Jelinek, who would you have right now as your top 3 or 4 or 5?
Oh, this has been tough. Again, I've been thinking about this all day too. Looking at my notes here, I had CJ Stroud winning the Heisman. The fact that I think in 8 or 9 games this year he's thrown for over 300 yards. I mean, the dude's absolutely electric. I understand that he came up short in the Michigan game and didn't look that great, but at the end of the day, CJ Stroud's had a damn good season. He's going to be a really good quarterback.
He's still almost put to 400 yards.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the dude can sling the ball. It's awesome.
Yeah, I have him on my list, but not in the top 4. No, I got him 5 on my list.
Interesting. 2's been kind of a toss-up between Bryce Young, just the fact that he's on Alabama and he's getting a lot of love. I don't think he's Heisman vote worthy. Then I also have Matt Corral there too. I just think Matt Corral is kind of like the Lamar Jackson when he won the Heisman. I think Matt Corral is really fun to watch. He's probably my favorite player to watch in the NFL, in college football. I just think I'm going to say it again, he's electric. I think he commands a really good offense in Ole Miss, in Lane Kiffin's system. I like Matt Corral a lot. I don't think he's going to win it, but I like him. And finally, I have Kenneth Walker III, just for the fact that he's rushed for a ton of yards. He's been compared to when Derrick Henry won the Heisman, stuff like that. I mean, Kenneth Walker III is awesome, and I think he should win, but I don't think he will. Then finally, just to say I don't want him to win at all, I have Aiden Hutchinson at 4. I don't think he should be considered. I don't think he should go to New York. So there's that.
Pete, this is a wild card. I don't know if you have a list yourself. You saw some of the favoritism pulling in there. Jelinek put Kenneth Walker 3 on his list, but said he thinks he should win it. So would you vote him number 1, or are you going to vote him 3?
I have Kenneth Walker as my number 2. Because we talked about it before. His chances kind of got ruined after the Ohio State game. Didn't really. He had like 6 touches. That was he wasn't there that game. But minus that game, and I think maybe one other that he didn't really play very well. He's been unstoppable. He has just been one of if not the best player in college football, and he is each game he has just come in and dominated. And I think that he's a running back, so he's probably not going to win. But I have him as my number 2 because he's just been unstoppable this year.
Who's number 1?
At number 1, I have CJ Stroud. As much as I don't want to say it, he's just. Look, he's just been throwing it perfectly all season. Like we said, he came up short last weekend, but he still threw for almost 400 yards, 2 touchdowns. The guy has been incredible.
Yeah, I mean, just Dennis, before you get into it, reading CJ Stroud's stats, I mean, he's thrown for 3,800 yards, 38 TDs, which is 5th in the nation, and 5 interceptions total. I mean, the dude has thrown for damn near 300 yards in basically 3/4 of the games this year. He's incredible. He's one of the best quarterbacks I've ever watched in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I'm not faulting you guys because I think this is what's going to happen across college football, and the people that do vote for this, I think they're going to go for quarterbacks because they always do, and it's kind of like, hey, let's just go for the quarterback. But this is the year that it should be all defensive players. I mean, Bryce Young's not the best player. He's not been the most outstanding player on his team. It's been Anderson on the defensive side. However, I think that 2 weeks ago, I had Kenneth Walker at number 1 on my list, and he went down to Ohio State, and he was an absolute no-show. So he's not winning the Heisman Trophy. He had his chance. He had his chance on the biggest stage to go down there. He didn't have to necessarily win that game, but he had to come up big, and he came up empty. I put C.J. Stroud heading into last week as number 1. The guy had lit up the Spartans. He could have scored 100 points on Michigan State if he wanted to, and he played a pretty good game. But you know what? And he stays on the list, but Ohio State lost, and he had his opportunity, so he drops down. If I had to pick right now heading into this final week, I've got Georgia's defensive tackle, 6'6", 340 pounds, Jordan Davis, Godzilla, number 99. The Dogs have been the best team all year. Why are they there? It's because of their great defense. He's been in the backfield a few times. He's rushed for a touchdown. If the Dogs go out there and snuff out Alabama and Davis has this monster game in the middle of that defensive line, I would vote Jordan Davis as number one for the Heisman. Also, the ballots don't have to be into next week at this time. Number 2, he's kind of come out of nowhere, but against Penn State, he had 3 sacks. Against Ohio State, he had 3 sacks. He also had 2 holding penalties against him, and he had 14 pressures. And since Pro Football Focus back in 2015 has been recording pressures, nobody's had more. Aiden Hutchinson would be number 2 on my list if I was sending in it for the Heisman Trophy right now. And number 3, with apologies to Williams for the defense, which I just talked about, he's the best on Alabama. Bryce Young did have a monumental drive there against a crappy Auburn team. An Auburn could have, but he was zigzagging it out. He had a signature drive there. And I would have him number 3 on the list. I would have Kenneth Walker 4 and Straub 5. Now, I would go into Saturday with an open mind. If Michigan beats Iowa and Aiden Hutchinson is playing like he did, he's throwing guys into the backfield, he's snatching the quarterback down with one, I would vote Aiden. I think Aiden Hutchinson has a chance to win the Heisman. But like I said, Davis, Hutchinson, and Bryce Young. If Alabama went out there against the best defense in the country and Bryce Young tunes them up for 4 or 5 touchdowns, well, then he can win the Heisman Trophy. But you have to have an open mind right now. And, you still have another game to play on the biggest stage. I mean, you had rivalry week was big, and these guys had their opportunities. But Walker and Stroud, I think the voters and a lot of the college football world is thinking just like you guys, but I hope that they're examining actually what happened last week and keeping an open mind to what happens here on Saturday.
I mean, there's a reason why Charles Woodson's been the last defensive player to win the Heisman. I mean, you saw Manti Te'o go there and not win. I just don't think – it is all quarterbacks at the end of the day. I just don't see a defensive player. I mean, let alone not even.
But Chase Young 2 years ago was invited. But you know what? It's time where
he was invited,
but he didn't win.
No, he didn't. But you know what? There's not. Like Stroud had his chance. Walker had his chance. Bryce Young played like crap for the majority of that game, and he's not the most outstanding player on his team. Don't just be. I don't want to call you guys, but I hear just don't be lazy and pick the quarterback on Alabama. Well, these guys have their opportunities. A defensive player should win. Like if Georgia and Michigan win, the top 2 teams in college football, and the most outstanding players on their team are defensive players, well, then vote for them. Vote for Davis. Vote for Hutchinson.
You're right. It's not about who should win. It's about who will win, and they're going to do that exact same thing is what you're saying. They're going to pick the quarterback from Alabama, and even I have it right here. In the last 20 years, since 2000, the 3 players who weren't a quarterback that won the Heisman were all from Alabama. You got Devontae Smith, Derrick Henry, and Mark Ingram. Yeah,
but those guys are incredible in every way. Shape.
Well, I'm not saying that they're not, but I'm saying they're going to look at the easy thing. They're going to say, all right, it's Alabama. It's always been Alabama. Who's their quarterback? Who's their main guy? They don't look at the defense. The defense never wins. It's just like the NFL MVP.
Yeah, I totally get where you're coming from. And I actually kind of like how it always goes through quarterback because obviously quarterbacks in the most important position on the field are usually one of the best athletes on the field just for the fact that they can constantly throw the balls, run all that. But I really do think it's going to be C.J. Stroud. I don't think that's a lazy take either just for the fact that, like we've said, he's thrown for over 300 yards in the game. I mean, he almost threw for 400 against Michigan. I mean, yeah, I get that C.J. Stroud's wide receivers are all NFL wide receivers and the tight end's unreal too. But at the end of the day, someone's throwing them the ball, and C.J. Stroud can really sling the football.
All right.
I guess we'll see.
All right. Well, before we get to the 4th chapter, let's say thanks to our presenting sponsor, and that's CashToBitcoin.com.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cash to Bitcoin. And with that, we go into chapter 4, and we are going to bring a little Lions football up just for the hell of it. Why not? I know, exactly. Ugh.
Let's see if there's some
whiskey
in here.
dude, you're telling me I should spike my tea right now as well. But looking at it, all right, as of right now, the Lions the first overall pick, and I'm sure they're going to find a way in the last couple weeks to win a couple of games and not get the first overall pick, because that would be the most Lions thing of all time.
Who do you think they're going to beat?
And that
the Falcons, right, Pete?
Exactly.
It's not who I think they're going to be. Just the Lions are going to do something stupid to win their last couple of games, to like win it for Dan Campbell or whatever. I don't really care. I want them to lose every game at this point, but they're going to find a way to win out of the first overall pick. But that brings us into the topic of who the Lions should take if they draft first overall. And I'm just going to lead this off. I think it should be Aiden Hutchinson. I really do. Aiden Hutchinson is a really good football player. Like we talked about, 3 sacks in the last 2 weeks, or 6 sacks total in the last 2 weeks, 3 in each game. I mean, Hutchinson is sweet. He's the real deal, and he totally anchors that defense for Michigan. And I think seeing Aiden Hutchinson in Honolulu Blue on Sundays would be a huge boost to the Lions' terrible defense.
Yeah. I also said Hutchinson. I mean, the Lions are second to last in the league in sacks right now. Mm-hmm. They've got 16. Myles Garrett alone has 14.
Yeah.
You need somebody to get pressure on the quarterback. I mean, the thing is, the Lions could essentially draft any position that isn't running back, and they would upgrade that spot. That's just how little they have on that team. But right now, you got to get pressure on the quarterback. You got to pick something, and you got to just I don't even know.
You need competent football players to be able to
somebody out there who knows what they're doing.
Well, this is a passing league and a get after the quarterback league. So if you don't have a franchise quarterback and there's one not sitting there, going to a defensive end, number one, makes a lot of sense. And you mentioned Myles Garrett. He was just a few years ago. He was picked number 1 overall out of Texas A&M in 2017. Nick Bosa and Chase Young went number 2, just in 18 and or 19 and 20. So these guys are going off the board pretty high. I think up until 2 weeks ago, I was saying, and I was, Kayvon Thibodeau from Oregon. He looked like the best pro prospect. But since then, Hutchinson's went out there and done it on the field. That's why he's rocketed it up to number 2 in the Heisman standings for me. He has been the most outstanding player in college football, and he's been the best defensive end. And Thibodeau, I know, he doesn't have somebody on the other side, so they slide the protection to him. They scheme. They throw everything away from him. So he doesn't have the stats and everything, and he's not falling out of the top 5. And you know what? Maybe he goes and puts some, crazy combine together. But you know what? Hutchinson, he's going to test out great too. So I think it is going to come down to either the Ducks defensive end or the Wolverines defensive end, and production on the field and how you finished up. I would pick if the card had to go in today, I would go with Aiden Hutchinson too.
You think Matt Corral is the best quarterback coming in the draft this year?
You know what? I've seen him run around, and I've seen him, in a few. The couple games. I remember they were playing Arkansas. We were betting on that game, and I picked the Hogs, and ended up 30-30 and everything else. I just see highlights, but every time I see a highlight, it looks like he throws a pretty good ball. Yeah, I haven't watched. I like how they play with a lot of tempo, so it's a cool offense to watch. They get up there, and they're always, trying. They don't do any huddling up. I mean, so that part's pretty cool, but. I'm not ready to say that, he's a top 10 pick right now. I certainly don't think the Lions should consider him at number 1.
No, oh God, no. I would never consider any of the quarterbacks in this draft a top 10 pick, let alone the Lions choosing that 1, 2, or 3 wherever they draft. But the Lions have that second first-round pick. I'm getting to the point now where I've been saying don't draft any offensive players in the first round because you just need something to build off, and you might as well build a defense where you still have Jared Goff quarterbacking the Lions. But at 20, 21, 22, take a flyer on Matt Corral if he's there. Is anyone saying no? I mean,
I'm saying no.
You're saying no? Fifth, are you saying no?
No, I'm not saying no. It's a little bit early right now. I know I hope the Rams completely nosedive and that the Lions end up with the 20th pick overall. But, I have the feeling like that quarterback needy teams, they're not going to fall.
No.
2 or 3 of them will still end up going in the first round. And so you might end up getting third best. You might end up getting Javi Baez, with that pick that you're talking
Sam
about.
Howell.
You really want your third? That's it. You really want Javi Baez when, you're thinking about CJ Straub next year?
Oh, I know exactly. I'm looking for the 2022 draft. Don't get me, or would that be 2022 or 2023? 2023. That'd be 23. Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking for C.J. Stroud or another quarterback who's just
Bryce Young
good. Or Bryce Young. I mean,
you got to have Goff on your. You got to stick with Goff.
Yeah, I totally agree. You do have to stick with Goff, but I'm just saying, God forbid, like let's say that Matt Corral is there in the 20s and you're drafting. Are you going to pass it up? Or are you going to go something else, or would you take Matt Corral?
No, I think maybe they could take a flyer in the 3rd or 4th round, and heck, everybody's going to want to see that guy anyways. Put him in, give that guy, give some 4th rounder.
Yeah, I'd like.
I don't know where's Pickett from Pitt? Where's he? Is he going to be picked in the first, second round? He's going to be picked in the second round. Like a guy like that, ends up, falling. Maybe you look at somebody like that.
I'd like to see them use that other 1st-round pick just to keep building up the defense, because right now there's nobody back there.
No, yeah,
except Anzalone, of course.
That's right. Well, just think what the Cardinals did. They had a number 1 pick, and then they went back to quarterback in the 1st round the following year. So, maybe the Lions do look with that second or their 2nd round pick, which is at 33. If one of those quarterbacks we're talking about, Pickett or Corral, you'd say, you're even talking about Howell. That doesn't seem like it.
I don't want Sam Howell.
It doesn't sound very sexy as we sit here talking about it. But you throw him out there, and the Lions aren't going to be any good next year either, but at least you say, all right, let's give the kid a whirl and see if he's got anything, knowing that you might end up having another top 5 pick again. Probably. I mean, I don't think the Lions are turning things around next year. I don't expect them to be. I expect them to be a bottom 5 team next year. Bottom
of the division, no doubt. Can we bring up Rasidi's comment about no college players helping the Lions real quick?
Bring it up.
Well, I think he's absolutely right here. You got a couple good guys. You're not going to hit every pick in the draft, especially because you're the Lions. You're going to get 2, maybe 3 guys who you stick with for a while and they actually help your team. But he's right that you need free agents to help build this team. But then no one's going to want to come there.
Yeah, that's the problem. What free agent wants to come to the Lions? I mean, they're going to have to grossly overpay what they did to like a Trey Flowers or something like that, and that's not working out. But there is no way in the world you can attract good free agents to come here right now. I don't like, if you're looking at, I would take a pay cut rather than come to the Lions. Honestly, I would rather take less money and go somewhere else. Like it's not like the Pittsburgh Steelers and New England Patriots where they've won in the past and recently. It's the Lions. They have not won a thing since they went to a playoff game. 7 years ago, 6 years ago, whenever that was. I mean, it's the
Seahawks. And when they didn't score a touchdown that was miserable.
Yeah,
is this your burner account? Chris wants Kenneth Walker to win the Heisman. It's like, come on. You get Mel Tucker. Account. Kenneth Walker had an opportunity. Let's turn the page. That gets us to the Spartans.
Wait, but you can say Aiden Hutchinson had an opportunity against Michigan. For that argument.
You mean against Michigan State?
Excuse me. Yes, you could make that
he
argument.
dominated against Michigan State, and if it wasn't for that ref's call, he would have had a touchdown on his resume there, which would have been even a stronger case, for Hutchinson. He played well against Michigan State.
If we're gonna do this right now, I'm just saying that with Mark Ingram and Derrick Henry winning the Heisman, Kenneth Walker has those same numbers. He has better numbers in some categories. You could absolutely.
Those guys were undefeated those years when those 2 guys won it.
What'd you say?
Those guys were undefeated the years they won it. Derrick Henry certainly was. I remember he took Michigan State. He played against Michigan State, and William Goldston came around and he shoved him to the ground. And I was like, who in the hell is this guy that we're talking about as a running back? I mean, he was incredible. He deserved it. Kenneth Walker was great, but he had his opportunity on the biggest stage. And you know what?
Yeah.
He came up as a 0 in that game. He could be invited, but let's not talk about him winning. You can't when you get like there was some guy earlier this year that was talking about, he's had his signature Heisman moment, and it was against Rutgers. And it was like, what are these guys doing? You have to do it against your rivals. The 5 touchdowns against Michigan, he was the favorite.
That was his.
I had him as the favorite heading into Ohio State. It was there for him to win it. He couldn't come up with the kind of performance that he did.
Yeah, that Ohio State game really hurt his chance.
If he'd had 100 yards in that game and they would have still gotten blown out, all right. But, why didn't he play in the second half? Was he hurt or feelings hurt? What happened?
His feelings were
Well, I don't know. Like, he came back the next week and played. He played this week.
I think he actually had an injury.
He had an injury. All right.
I think he was actually. While we're still on NFL topic, Rashidi saying that the Lions should hire Barry Sanders as an assistant coach.
I'm in. Super Ricidi, by the way, owes me 2 pizzas.
I think he owes me like $100 or something like that too.
I forgot the first bet that he had.
He said that Michigan State would beat Ohio State.
Oh yeah, Michigan State over Ohio State. That was a loss. He came back and DM'd me and wanted to double up. This was nothing to do with you guys on Thanksgiving, and I said let's do it. And he picked the Lions on Thanksgiving, so he's down 2 pizzas now.
Yeah, and he's also said that the Lions are going to have really good wide receivers this year. What, like 1,000-yard receiving receivers, something like that.
Has anyone hit 500 yards yet?
At least I don't think anybody's even remotely close to 500 yards.
Yeah.
Let's get Herman Moore, not as the receivers coach, but let's put him on the field.
Yeah, might as well. Let's just put Barry Sanders out there.
Yeah.
Let's get to the 5th. He looks pretty good running around in that the commercial
that solar panel commercial. That one. Yeah, he does look good.
Get some exercise. Get some exercise in. There he is. Look at him. Touchdown, Barry.
Oh God, he's so good. Was so good. But I think with that, it's a good place to turn to the 5th chapter, and that's just going to be talking a little about Michigan State. Michigan State hosted hosted Penn State in the snow, beat them. Yeah, just Penn State.
Don't focus on me.
Yeah, Penn State just wasn't that good this year. That's fine. And on the flip side, Michigan State was projected to win 2, maybe 3 games this year. They ended up going 10-2. I'm not trying to be a homer. I'm trying to keep that out of this, but overall, what a great season for Michigan State football. I mean, going 10-2, they're going to be in a New Year's 6 bowl. The horizon's looking great for the Spartans. I mean, overall, 2021 was a great year for Michigan State football. Even though they didn't beat Ohio State, they still beat a rival, and they were in contention for the college. They were in the college football playoff at one point. So, 5th, we'll start with you. This is a 2 thumbs up season. Now, Mel Tucker's the coach of the year, regardless, and whether it's just the Big Ten, national. This is a great year for Michigan State football.
Yeah, I think the over and under was 3.5 this year for Michigan State. So they blew the doors off of that. They beat Michigan. They've identified their coach. They got a good one. They locked him up. All of those things, and I thought it was important, to come back. If you lose to Ohio State and you come home and lose to Penn State, that's a bitter taste in your mouth right here. After you give the contract up, and you're like, $95 million for this. Yeah. So it was important just to, you get a 10-win season. You're talking about New Year's 6 bowl. I think all those things are important, and you have to feel pretty good if you're a Michigan State fan. 10 wins, it's nothing to sneeze at. It's awesome considering what they did this year. And I would say, great gets thrown around a lot. And you say, well, what did they win? Well, they won 10 games when they were going to win 3.5. Mel Tucker deserves to be the Big Ten coach of the year, and things are looking up in East Lansing. So, and look at all these coaches that are flying around with, Brian Kelly and, all the money that's being tossed around now.
Private jets.
Yeah. So, Tucker's deal, it was one of those things that maybe by next year, say, you know what, it really wasn't all that 95 mil, but yeah, great year for Michigan State.
It's just shocking too that $9.5 million a year. Mel Tucker was the highest paid coach in football for a week, if that. And here we are now. It's bizarre where the money's going in college football.
I'm just upset that Penn State was not able to pull out this one, because then they would have gone 8-4, which is exactly what I had predicted at the beginning of the season, and that would have been a nice little moral victory for me, I guess, after the kind of a disappointing season.
I was pulling for you, Pete.
I wasn't.
I know. No, I know you weren't.
We know.
All right. Well, we'll find out what happens next week, Jelinek. You got the entire week here. Enjoy it. Maybe the Tigers will have a signing. Maybe Michigan will be into the college football playoff. It'll be exciting there. Pete, great job. We'll talk with you then. We'll talk with you Thursday, hopefully.
Yep.
Say him. We want to thank Rob. Thanks for all the video, and Alex Anzalone. Hopefully he bounces back this week against the Vikings. If the Lions are going to win, they're going to need the blonde-haired warrior. I was at my mom's on Thanksgiving, and she said, "Is that guy a girl?" So he has his hair flying out the back, and I'm like, "No, he's their middle linebacker."
Unfortunately,
that's the kind of thing a mom. My mom's close to 80 years old. It's like, is that a girl? No. As Anzalone.
God, that was a brutal game to watch. That sucked in every way, shape, and form.
Yeah, especially if you took the Lions on the money line.
Did you take Lions money
No.
line? Oh,
No,
thank God.
I
All
didn't.
right.
I had the
Woo!
Bears. I had the Bears on the money line. All right, which I needed because they lost they're favored by 3 and they lost by 2. So that was bitter. You actually had the Lions ticket was the winner on that, plus the points. Great job, Jelinek. Thanks, Rob. Say goodbye to everybody.
Yeah, everybody. I'll see you next Tuesday, but enjoy the show on Thursday. Good night.